Yo, what's up guys, it's XRAYZ and welcome to a new episode of Gaming Nightmares. And for you guys that don't know what this series is, it's a series where we cover really creepy urban legends, myths, whatever you want to call them. And in the last episode we actually covered a pretty custom one that was about someone who made a custom console that was like virtual reality only to the extreme. It was like a fourth dimension is what they're calling it. If you guys want to check that one out, a link is in the description below. It's a pretty interesting one. Go check it out. I do apologize that I didn't do one last week, but this week we got a really interesting one that covers Skyrim, which is probably one of the most popular online games. It's actually been out for a couple of years already and people still play this. They have mods, they have everything on this game, and it just keeps coming back for more, which is pretty interesting. And we have one today called Skyrim's Secret, which covers a story of a dude who decides to do a console command and go outside of the map and finds a pretty interesting place. Now before I actually jump into that though guys, if you guys do enjoy the video, make sure to support the series by leaving a like and a favorite. It does get these creepypastas out there for more people to enjoy, and it lets me know that you guys are actually enjoying this series. And of course, if you guys are new and you don't want to miss any more of these episodes in the future, then make sure to subscribe so you guys won't miss any. But anyways, with that said, let's jump straight into today's story. It's called Skyrim's Secret. Now our main protagonist doesn't actually have a name in this story, which is usually the typical of all of the stories that you hear on these. It's someone who's writing in first person, talking about their experience. In this case, I'm just going ahead and call him Josh. Now, Josh actually is an avid Skyrim player. He plays it a lot, and he actually decides to do what a lot of people do once they've, basically gone on all the quests and leveled up as much as they could, and they want to blow off some steam. They decide that they want to go outside, use a console command, and actually just explore the map, since a lot of developers usually put Easter eggs and stuff like that on the outside, or they find stuff that was like pre-development structures that they decided not to use. But it's always interesting to kind of do that. That's why you see a lot of glitching videos on YouTube. So anyways, he decides to use his console command. He goes outside of it, and he decides that he's going to kind of go around the mountain ranges, search around, see if he can find anything interesting. And he actually ends up finding this mansion on the other side of a mountain range. So he goes over the mountain and he finds this mansion that's called Hostfort Manor. So Hostfort Manor is like this white manor that he goes inside it, and he says that it looks like really low res, like they didn't put a lot of texture on it, like it was something that was made maybe at first as like a test model, and they eventually decided that they weren't going to use it. So anyways, he spots it, he doesn't think much of it, he goes inside. There's nothing really inside. The only thing he finds is that there's like a podium, and on the podium there's a book. So he goes up to the book, he opens up the book, he looks at it, and it just has like a number 1 on it, and that's the only thing that's interesting about it. So he's like, oh, this is a waste of time. He thought it was a pretty interesting find, but at the same time he thought that there was nothing to it, just a book that was empty inside an empty room, inside a very low-res mansion. So he decides that he's going to turn around. He turns around and he actually spots an NPC, which is a woman who's wearing like this blue gown, or like a dark blue gown, and he decides that he's gonna walk up to her and talk to her, and the NPC starts talking to him, and the first thing that she says to him is something about wealth, and it says, wealth is something that is temporary, it's here today and it's gone tomorrow. He says that while he's on his way to work, that someone knocks him down from behind and they take his wallet. The whole time he's thinking, well, the game kind of told me that wealth was a temporary thing. Is it possible that maybe it's like telling my future or something like that? But he brushes it off. He's like, maybe it's not going to happen. Maybe it's just a coincidence. And he goes home and he actually plays Skyrim again, goes back to this mansion. But when he goes back, he notices that the mansion looks a little bit more worn down, like it's like time has passed by or something like that. So it looks a little bit more beat up, a little like the white was actually starting to fade a little bit. And he goes inside, he talks to this woman again, and this woman actually looks a little bit older too. But he realizes that every single time that he goes in here, she gets older and the mansion also gets older. And she actually starts talking to him again. At this point, she tells him, a man works hard for his coin, but when he ceases to be useful, he is cast away to starve. And so he's like thinking about this, like, well, does that mean I'm going to lose my job? And so he decides to, kind of close the game. And then once again, he goes to work the next day, which is at a gas station. And his boss basically tells him, hey, we're a little bit over budget. We had to let go of some people and we're actually going to have to fire you. So then the kid's like, wait, what's going on? Is this thing telling my future? Is it like telling me what's going to happen? So out of pure curiosity, he goes back again. And he's like telling his friend, like, this is what's happening. Let's both go together into the thing so we can see if we can spot anything different. He tells his girlfriend Susan, basically telling her all about the bad things that have been happening to him, his wallet getting stolen, losing his job. He goes back to the mansion again. He's curious, and he thinks that if he does this, he might be able to prevent anything from happening. So he goes back and he talks to the woman, and she says, your home is your sanctuary and you do all you can to preserve it, but what happens when others aren't responsible? And then once again he's like, crap, my house, something happened to it. He closes his laptop, he runs over to his house, and he realizes that his house or his apartment is actually on fire, and he loses his home, and he actually ends up staying with his friend the whole time that he's there. And he's like talking to his girlfriend, and his girlfriend's like, I'll try to get you a job back where I work. So he goes back again to the game. Again, it's getting older, this mansion. Now it's like a grayish color. You can start to see the bricks behind the paint. He goes inside, and this woman is a lot older. She looks like she's in her 60s or 70s. She's starting to hunch over, and she looks like she's in fear every single time that this guy goes over to her. So then he goes back, he starts talking to her, and this time she says, love is a powerful feeling, but it's so fragile in this chaotic world, which shows no mercy to even the closest lover. So again, he's thinking, oh, this is predicting this stuff. He freaks out, closes his laptop, and he's running over to his girlfriend's apartment. He runs over to the door. He starts, knocking on the door. He's like pummeling the door, saying, Susan, open the door, no response. And finally, after a couple of times just banging on the door, he decides that he needs to get in there, and he actually rams the door open. Once he gets in there, he goes to the kitchen, and he realizes that his girlfriend is actually lying on the floor, a lot of foam in her mouth, and she's like bleeding from the back of her head. And he realizes that she had an epileptic attack of some sort, and she fell back, knocked her head against something, and actually ended up dying from the whole thing. So then while he's in this moment of just like, despair, realizing that his girlfriend's dead, he realizes that him talking to this woman isn't predicting the future, but it's actually causing all of these bad things from happening. So he actually ends up going back into the game, and he's furious now because he's like, if this woman knew everything that was going to happen, why didn't she tell me the most important things right at the beginning? When he finally gets there, the woman is like really, really old. The building is falling apart. And he realizes, that this woman is like beyond the age of like what you will normally be when you're alive, just like a stage where it's like constant pain and like suffering. And he's like, crap. He's like starting to feel bad for her. She starts talking to her, and the woman's like, you came back. And she's like scared. She's whispering, why did you come back? Why couldn't you stay away? And finally, when he's like about to talk to her, she like mentions the book again. And he goes over to the book, he opens it up, and he realizes that, before it was just like a number 1 and a blank page. Now it's actually the numbers 1 through 5, and it's kind of detailing different things that have happened to him, from like someone stealing his things to his apartment being burned down, losing his job, and then his girlfriend dying. And he realizes that all of this happened because of his actions, that if it wasn't for him going into the game, then he would have never kind of brought this all upon himself. So after he's done reading the book, he turns over to look at the woman. She's just like on the floor already, like in a state of decay at that point, and she's holding something in her hand. At that point, he realizes it's one more thing that it's going to tell him. And he gets scared. He's like, I'm not going to do it. And he like runs away, closes his laptop. So he actually ends up getting kicked out of there, and he actually ends up selling his laptop. But anyways, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this creepypasta, which was a pretty weird one, if I do say so myself. A lot of people were actually pretty upset at this, saying that it was too generic, but we'll see. Let me know what you guys thought about it. Leave some comments down below. If you guys did enjoy the video, of course, make sure to slap a like and a favorite on the video. It does get it out there, helps my channel grow. And of course, if you guys are new and you want to stay up to date with all of these really awesome creepypastas that will be coming out every single Sunday, then make sure to subscribe so you guys won't miss it. But anyways, guys, until next time, like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Make sure I'm out. Peace.